Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 523 of the Juicebox Podcast. Today I'm going to be speaking with Caroline, who has a number of different medical issues. I don't want to ruin the story for you, so that's all I'm going to say for now. While you're listening to Caroline and I speak today, please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Please always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. Please let me take this moment to thank everybody who has bought me a cup of coffee. There's been a Buy Me a Coffee campaign set up at buymeacoffee.com/Juicebox Podcast. And there are 22 members, meaning people who are buying me coffees on the regular every month. And these are their names: Anna, Amber, Laura, Mirinda, Melanie, Corey, Jessica, Nancy, Sue, Shannon, Marilyn, Allison, Larissa, Melissa, Leah, Blue, Julie, Grace, Daniel, Jennifer, and Jeanette. Thank you to them and the over 200 other people who have bought me a coffee. I am now sitting in a wonderfully supportive chair that has alleviated a lot of my lower back pain because of you guys. Seriously, I thank you very, very much for doing that. buymeacoffee.com/Juicebox Podcast. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Dexcom G6 continuous glucose monitor. Please get started today, or just learn more at dexcom.com/juicebox. The show is also sponsored by Omnipod, makers of the Omnipod Dash and makers of the Omnipod Promise. The Omnipod Promise is simple, and here's what the promise says. There is no need to wait for the next big thing. Because with the Omnipod Promise, you can upgrade to Omnipod's latest technologies for no additional cost as soon as they're available to you and covered by insurance. Terms and conditions apply. Omnipod.com/Juicebox. Are you on for a reason?
Yes. Okay. I'm a Whipple warrior.
I recall. Good.
With now type 1 diabetes.
Yeah, that comes free with the surgery, doesn't it?
That's right.
It's lovely. Well, we're recording the whole time, and so I'll have you introduce yourself in a second. But I want to just tell you now that about 2 weeks ago, I just was standing in the kitchen. I mean, just standing there. I started feeling this very terrible pain. It felt like this walnut-sized pain under my scapula on my right side, kind of up under my shoulder. I was like, what is that? And I'm that age. I'm immediate. I was like, is this shoulder cancer? That's probably what this is going to be. Because I'm waiting to die at any moment, And so I wait a little longer. It seems to be spreading out. And it almost seems like it's grabbing the muscles that are attached to my rib cage and just pulling my rib cage tighter. And before I know it, I can't breathe really. And I'm starting to go everything's fine. Like that. And I'm having trouble. Well, it gets worse and worse. And so I just aggressively massaged the area for a number of days. And probably 4 or 5 days later, I was like, I feel so much better. The only time I can feel it pulling now is if I bend over to the floor, try to grab something and pick it up. And even just with my right hand. So I was like, I did it. I'm, some weird muscle spasm and it's gone. I'm good. It doesn't happen to me that often. Mm-hmm. Well, Monday, a week after I was like, this is fine now. I still have this sort of dull thing in my shoulder. I'm like, God, I can't believe I can't get rid of this. And then all of a sudden it feels like it just reaches up and grabs into my, it's like it went from reaching down into my body to reaching up, and it just froze my shoulder up and my neck. And before I knew it, I was laying on the sofa going I'm going to die. This is it. Just in this immense pain. So, somebody's low.
Yeah, well, not really.
Not really?
But I did just eat lunch, so hopefully this will work its way out.
What's 76. That alarm? Yeah, I was going to say, I wondered where your alarm was at. Anyway, long story short, I woke up yesterday and couldn't move. So I went to urgent care. Really, I was just drug seeking. I just needed Flexerol. I needed like a muscle relaxer. So I was like, I don't know what's up. Go ahead and examine me. And then please give me a muscle relaxer at the end. It's just I was asking for. And I'm doing way better today. And to be honest, I think I'm going to feel even better tomorrow. But I am loaded on Flexerol, in case you're wondering. And if I say something really stupid, I'm going to need you to stop me. Okay? Like you be the adult.
Well, I'm loaded on pain pills. So
oh, wait. You are?
Match. Yeah.
You have like a monkey on your back, or is there something going on?
This ought to be fun.
Did you get yours out of the local patient first? Like,
no, I mean, I'm still. I got a lupus diagnosis also a few months ago, and so I'm in the process of just still figuring everything out. So I still see a pain management doctor who's still got me on pain medication.
Tell everybody your name real quick so we can keep talking.
Caroline Roberts.
All right, that's good enough.
I am okay.
We're just gonna keep talking.
I can load it out there.
Yeah, we're just gonna keep talking. So tell me. So let's I want to get back to the lupus for a sec in a little while. Okay. But how did you? Why are you on the podcast? Tell everybody.
So I was diagnosed 2 years ago with neuroendocrine pancreatic cancer, and actually, a few months prior to that, diagnosed with multiple endocrine neoplasia type 1, or MEN1. And that's a genetic disease. And so I was diagnosed with that. And then they did some scans and found a spot on the body and tail of my pancreas. And I had a distal pancreatectomy last year, and got clean scans after that. And then this past February had some blood work that was very elevated for that specific tumor marker, and ended up having the Whipple procedure in July. I had the Whipple in July of this year.
It's a serious thing. They go in and they took your entire pancreas, or?
Took the entire pancreas, took the gallbladder, and part of the small intestine.
Jeez. You know, well, here's why. It's a shame, right? Because this thing, which is terrible, is in my mind makes me think of the guy from the Charmin commercial from like the 60s and 70s. You know, they would tell you not to squeeze the Charmin. This is a toilet paper commercial, in case you're wondering.
Right.
And his name was Mr. Whipple.
That's right.
You would just think that if they were going to have like a horrible medical procedure, you wouldn't make everyone go, oh, but that pleasant man squeezed the toilet paper.
Right, right.
It's not fair.
I know, and everyone says that.
Yeah. How about give it something more scientific, or, I don't know. I don't know what came first, the Whipple or the Whipple, but for certain,
right.
That's sucks.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, that's terrible. Are you married?
I am married, and I have twin 12-year-old boys that I homeschool, and I have been homeschooling them for 5 years.
Okay.
So
I
was homeschooling prior to COVID.
Through all this, through your surgeries and everything, you just kept doing that?
Yes.
My kids' teachers seem to take sabbaticals every time they bump themselves on the wall, but I guess it's okay.
Well, I have to say it's been a challenge, but we were already kind of in a good groove with it, so it has been okay.
I would guess. Excuse me. I would guess that as long as they don't think 3 + 4 is orange, you'll be fine.
That's right.
Yeah.
I want to bring this back around though, because you've had a doctor, Dr. Stephen Ponder, on the podcast.
Oh my God, so long ago, yeah.
He is actually the person that sent me for the genetic testing, and I owe him a lot of credit, because I would never have done that had he not kind of made me do that. So we had one of my boys had a false positive blood test for another part of MEN1 is parathyroid disease. It basically, MEN1 creates tumors on all of your endocrine glands. And so you have to watch for the parathyroids, which control the calcium level in your bloodstream. Mm-hmm. You have to watch for your pancreas, and you have to watch the pituitary gland. And we were checking the boys every 2 years to make sure that their calcium was not elevated, because I have had parathyroid problems since the age of 15. I had my first kidney stone at 15. And one of the boys got a false positive, which sent us to Dr. Ponder's office. And he told us, the lab work was not correct, but that I really needed to get genetic testing because there was some reason why I had all of these issues. And he called me personally the next morning and had made an appointment with me to go to their lead geneticist. And I had the genetic testing done then.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, It's a serious, if you don't, I don't know how much people understand, like pancreatic cancer, that just kills you. It doesn't take too long. And when it decides it's over, it's really over, and it happens incredibly quickly. I watched my friends. Yeah, it's so funny. Oh my God. It's so odd that you're saying this, because if you listen to this show, you hear me talk about my friend Mike, who has type 1 diabetes.
Right.
His mom died of pancreatic cancer. It's before we ever talked about, I never talked about diabetes and autoimmune issues like this in the past. I've never even considered that till just now. No kidding. So, yeah. In the 80s and prior, if you just, when you died, you're just like, oh, they died. That was it. Nobody was, nobody knew MEN1, or they're like, I don't know. She had her thing went bad and she's gone now. People didn't look into things. I guess the technology wasn't there really.
Right.
But that's great. It's amazing that he had you do that, and that it saved your life, I imagine. Right.
It did. I would have never, checked my pancreas for anything because I wasn't really having any symptoms. So I owe him tremendous credit, for doing that for me. And then I listened to your podcast with him on, and I have his book. I have not read it yet, but I didn't know who he was. I didn't know he had type 1. I didn't know he was so prominent in the community. So
you just bumped into him as a doctor because you're local to where he works.
Correct.
Oh, that's interesting. Hey, yesterday, since we brought it all up in the show, I stopped by a therapy place that's nearby. I went into the to get the Flexerol from the one place. Then I swooped right into a place that does massage and chiropractor stuff. I went in there. I was like, can you please take me? I made them force me. And I was like, please just, I have to be able to move. I couldn't roll over. Have you ever had that thing where you're laying in bed and you want to turn 2 inches and you physically can't? This is where I was, right? So there's, this physical therapist, and she's working on my shoulder and everything. And she starts asking me what I do. And it's, Caroline, I'm 49. So I'm like, I have a podcast. And I think she starts looking at me like, are you going to be able to pay the bill? Like that's your job? And I was like, that's a pretty popular podcast. And she's like, really? What's it about? And I told her, and she goes, oh, my friend was diagnosed 2 years ago. Wow. And I was like, oh, cool. You should tell her about the show. And then we just kept talking about other things. Well, 10 minutes later, I was in a different portion of the room. She comes over to me. She goes, my friend says she listens to your show.
Oh my goodness.
And I go, I'm trying to be cool. I go, of course she does. And she starts saying when she walks, she listens. She hasn't listened recently. And I was like, there's no excuse for that. Tell her that she needs to stop. I need her listening to every episode, please.
Well, I found the podcast because a woman on the beach, I was on the beach in September in North Carolina, and she was walking past me and had a Dexcom on her arm. And at this point, I didn't know anyone with type 1 or anyone that wore a Dexcom. Mm-hmm. And I stopped her. And coincidentally, her name was Caroline. And we had a long conversation, and she told me about the Juicebox podcast. Oh. And as soon as I got home, I started listening.
Thank you, Caroline. That's nice.
Yeah.
Hopefully she'll hear that. So you're just accosting people on the beach?
I know.
Yeah.
I said, hey, showed her my arm.
Yeah. They just ripped out my stuff too. What's up? So I know this, it's interesting. I think there can be some consternation amongst people. Do you feel it, the difference between genetically getting diabetes and getting diabetes because someone took your pancreas out? do people treat you like you don't really have type 1?
No, I have not had that experience yet.
That's good.
Yeah, everybody has been really great. And, I'm a member of so many of these different support groups, the Whipple Warriors, type 1 diabetes, MEN1. And I think I've just got lupus. I've got so many things going on simultaneously.
Yeah, if you get one more thing, you have a basketball team.
I know. This is kind of crazy.
Well, so how old are you?
I'm 42. I just turned 42 on Monday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, is there an expectation that things are going to continue to pop up? Has anybody talked to you about, are you on a path or?
So with MEN1, you are scanned yearly, and that's a brain MRI for the pituitary, a CT of your chest and abdomen for, once you have pancreatic cancer, the chances of it popping up in your lungs or your thymus, it's pretty high.
Okay.
So I had all of those scans done last Friday, and I did have a little bit of abnormal tissue on the pituitary. Mm-hmm. I have had all of my parathyroids removed, and coincidentally, I actually had 3 removed at Cornell in New York City because I lived in New York City prior to 9/11, and then moved back to Texas, Austin, Texas, and had another parathyroidectomy in 2006, and they transplanted part of that hormone into my forearm, and we thought was dead because I had no parathyroid reading since 2006. And after this Whipple surgery, it decided to wake up. And for the first time since 2006, I have a functioning parathyroid hormone level and do not have to take, I was having to take compounded calcium and like a prescribed D, like all day. Because I was having intense muscle cramping from not having any calcium production. And so the surgery, caused it, we think, to wake up. And my doctor, my endocrinologist, says he's never heard of that ever happening before.
That's amazing.
After this period of time.
I can't even believe that's something they do. Just why your arm? I've questions.
Because they don't want to go back into your neck. Okay. It would have been a third surgery if they had to go back into my neck. And your vocal cords are right there, and that's a big risk when you have that surgery. So it's easier to go back into the arm.
Wow. How many surgeries have you had?
I had 2 in my neck, and then I had the distal pancreatectomy, and then the Whipple.
Wow. That's 4. Those are 4 pretty serious surgeries.
Yes.
How long do they knock you out? Like after a surgery is done, how long till you're back on your feet?
The Whipple was hard. I was in the hospital for about 6 days, and I was also in there during COVID in the ICU, which was a whole nother situation of its own. Yeah. And it was during the height. Well, we now are in the height of COVID, but then we thought that was the height of COVID in July. And then I came home, and the diabetes has been a big part of that, because regulating my blood sugar, not being on a pump, being on shots at first, not having a Dexcom, that was a big part of it at first. And I struggled with that, and I'm still not great. I've only been on the pump for about 4 months now, and I'm still learning. I posted the other day, I don't know how I did this, but I did drop my A1C from 6.5 to 5.7 in 3 months.
That's amazing.
Which I was shocked with, because my husband said, you cannot cry about this anymore, because apparently you do know what you're doing. I'm not so sure.
You tell him I know what I'm doing and you're listening to the podcast. That's all, right? Well, yeah. So a while, and that was my point, was that you go to sleep and you don't have diabetes. You wake up and you do, and on top of that, you just went through a surgery that's having other impacts on you as well, and you have to, like, the recovery from a surgery is a lot, but to have diabetes all of a sudden magically after that is it's just a different level. Did someone help you with it in the beginning?
So there was a diabetes specialist that came into my hospital room, which I understand that they have to do that, but you've just gone through something so traumatic and you're on medication. And I didn't really absorb what she was saying, and I couldn't have anyone at the hospital with me because of COVID. Okay. So I was all alone, and that was not helpful. I did have a pump trainer once I got home. And once I got the pump, my endocrinologist was amazing. He fought hard for me to get that pump, and he did it in an amazing amount of time. I actually was denied at first, and apparently that's pretty common. And he ended up having to really push, and I got the pump because of him. So he called me daily once I got home, and I had a dietitian that I spoke to every other day, because eating after Whipple is really hard. Also, there's that whole other component. I was on a soft food diet for a while, and for the most part, I'm still on a soft food diet. And that will probably, play a role with diabetes once I start venturing out to other food. But I eat the same food every single day, because I'm still not, it's only been 4 months since my surgery. So I'm still not completely healed from the Whipple. But the pump lady was very helpful, but I felt like I got this don't die lesson.
Yeah.
And I've heard this a lot on this podcast. I didn't get a whole lot of education. Listening to the pro tips has helped tremendously. Honestly, the only reason I dropped that A1C is from your podcast. There's no doctor told me the tips or the tricks that you have said on this podcast.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you, because I think I'd be in a much more miserable place if I hadn't been listening to the podcast.
I'm hard pressed to imagine coming out of a surgery. I mean, with all the implications that yours have and all the forward, even the forward thinking implications, and then suddenly you have to manage food with insulin. I don't know how to do that exactly.
It's not easy. Yeah. It has not been easy. Diabetes is hard. I mean, I guess I'll get to a point where I really know what I'm doing and I understand it all, but I don't know if anybody ever says that, but it's hard. I mean,
people tell it's incredibly difficult, and I do think you will get to a point where you get it. 4 months is an incredibly short amount of time to have type 1. First of all, your A1C is in the 5s already. That's spectacular. I think you're being aided by eating the same foods over and over again, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Most definitely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, take it. Nothing. Like, just call it something good. Like, here's a good part. I have to eat the same thing over and over, because I often tell people, when you're really struggling, try to mimic a meal a couple of days in a row so that you can give yourself a chance to make a decision, see how it works out, and then make an adjustment to it. Because if you go from, one completely different meal to the next 2 days afterwards, there's no real way to look at your data and make adjustments when you're going into a different food. So what does a soft food diet consist of?
Well, my diet right now is scrambled eggs, yogurt, soup, like a small portion of like chicken noodle soup. Mm-hmm. I have some hot tea. I do eat some saltines, a few saltines. And I do eat a little bit of cheese for protein, but that's basically it.
So you're eating like all of our grandmothers, basically.
Yes. Yeah. And I've gotten pretty used to it. I'm actually, it doesn't bother me. I guess I'm that person that really could eat the same thing every day for the rest of my life.
I was going to say, it seems nice to me. I'm doing this thing right now where my blood sugar's on the internet. And so
I've been watching it.
Oh, have you? Okay, thanks. And so I'm starting to feel this pressure to like eat certain things. And I just don't eat very much normally. So I'm like, my wife's like, you're going to eat all that? And I was like, I'm going to try, and I've been snacking like on purpose. Yeah. Like before I came up to you to talk to you, I just grabbed this candy out of a candy dish. I didn't even want it. I was like, oh, let's see if they can watch this, and I ate some candy. But I'm not a food person like that. Like I could put together some simple meals and do them every day and probably be pretty happy about it. I only seem to deviate when it's like fun to make something. I enjoy making a handmade pizza once in a while.
Your food looks pretty good. When you post it, it looks pretty good.
I do all right. Yeah. I've been in this house for 21 years taking care of these kids. I figured a couple of things out.
Yeah.
Although everyone thinks I'm a terrible cook here, which is fascinating. Like,
oh, that's funny.
Arden won't let me make her eggs.
Oh gosh.
Like, you're not good at it. Like, you can do it yourself.
Does she make her own eggs?
No, I mean she could, but that's not how she rolls. She's like, can somebody get me eggs? Why don't you get them? I just got done school. I'm very tired. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I have a pinched nerve in my shoulder, and it feels like someone's driving railroad spikes into me. But let me see if I can't help out.
Right.
How is this for your children? Are they old enough to do the math and go, this could happen to me?
So I had them genetically tested. As soon as I came back positive, the geneticist wanted them tested, and they both came back negative, which was amazing. My father was tested, and he came back positive. Mm-hmm. His brother was tested, and he came back positive. And we now know that my grandmother, who passed a few years ago, probably 99% would have come back positive. All of us have had the parathyroid surgery. So, we thought we had familial hyperparathyroidism. But in fact, we all have MEN1, and that's just a part of it.
Yeah. Would you said your grandmother died before you could know how old was she when she passed?
She was 78 or 79.
Did she have any ailments that point to any of this stuff that you think?
Oh, she had the parathyroid problem. Oh. And actually, she was from Germany, full-blood German. She grew up in Frankfurt, and lived through World War II as a child in Frankfurt. And her mother was in a hospital most of her childhood, and they called it stomach cancer. But, knowing what we know now, we all kind of think that her mother probably had MEN1, and they just didn't know what it was then.
Germany exporting MEN1. You can keep that stuff there. Oh, okay. So your kids, do they need to be tested more going into the future, or is this rock solid? You don't have it. You don't have it.
You don't have it. You don't have it. And they can't pass it on. And I always joke and say this stops with me. So
you're taking care of this, and your husband's digging around furiously for the receipt he thinks he got when he bought you. He's like, not that you can buy people. Everybody understands what I'm saying. You're like, yeah. He's like, oh, I found it. Can I return this?
I know. He's my poor husband. He's probably really disappointed. We have a pretty large age difference between us, and he thought he was going to have this young, hot wife with no problems who was going to have, all this energy. And instead, I'm the one that's falling apart.
Wait, so Caroline, you're a trophy wife?
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations. I always said if I was a girl, I would not work. I would definitely do something that my parents would be ashamed of so that I didn't have to have a job. Not saying that you did that. I'm just saying this would be my way to go.
Well, I have worked. majority of the marriage, but not full time.
No kidding. So can we, how much older than you is he?
24 years.
Oh yeah, he's pissed. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Totally.
Oh, that's funny. You're making me laugh when my shoulder hurts still.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Tell me about the lupus diagnosis. Here's what you need to do. It's super simple. You need to simplify your life. Make your decisions easier. And these next two ads are both going to do that for you. I'm just going to pick one. Here's what I'll do. I'll put a coin behind my... No, it won't work. I know what hand the coin's in. Never mind. I'll just pick one. Dexcom. Makers of the Dexcom G6 continuous glucose monitor. It's a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor. A device that you wear that reports your blood sugar's number, speed, and direction back to a receiver or your cell phone, Android or iPhone. Think about what I'm saying to you. No more guessing what your blood sugar is or what it's doing. You can just see it right there in front of you. Decisions get more thoughtful. By decisions, I mean carbohydrates and insulin. That's how we use it. We just sort of learn over time how Arden's going to react to these things, and we get to make better decisions. The data that comes back from the Dexcom it's almost everything, honestly. Dexcom.com/juicebox. And you can make your own alarms, right? Like say you want to know if your blood sugar goes over 130. You could just set it for 130. Maybe you don't want to know till 150. You could set it to 150. Would you like to know when your blood sugar's falling? It'll tell you that as well. It tells you everything. It's so cool and helpful and valuable. And part of how we keep my daughter's A1C in the fives. You can even share your data with up to 10 followers. So you could be an adult or a child, and anybody you want could follow you on their iPhone or Android device. Dexcom.com/juicebox. Links in your show notes, links at juiceboxpodcast.com. You have to go check it out. And while you're out tooling around the internet, you know what the kids call it. I think it's a time killer, right? The internet, but not when you're doing it for this. Not when you're finding out if you're eligible for a free 30-day trial of the Omnipod Dash using an insulin pump for free for 30 days. 30 days. That'd be like if I gave you my car and I was like, yeah, bring it back in a month. How great would that be? Think of all the savings. Plus, you get to try it out and see what you think. You can stick with it or you don't have to. It's really up to you. While I'm telling you about Omnipod, I'd like to remind you about their promise. The Omnipod Promise says that you can upgrade to Omnipod's latest technologies for no additional cost as soon as they're available to you and covered by your insurance. Terms and conditions apply, and you can find out more details at omnipod.com/juicebox. Now, there's only so much I can say, but just follow what I'm saying. If Omnipod were to come out with a new device, and you already had the Dash, let's say, and you wanted the new thing, you just call them up and go, I'm invoking the Omnipod Promise. I don't think you actually have to say that, but it might be fun if you did. Anyway, then you could just update to this thing that may or may not exist in the future. See what I'm saying? You're not tied down to just one thing. You don't have to wait for the next big thing. Omnipod.com/juicebox. Dexcom.com/juicebox. Links in the show notes of your podcast player. Links at juiceboxpodcast.com. Let's just ride out the rest of this music because I'm too lazy to edit it out. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. All right, let's find out about the lupus diagnosis with Caroline.
So I started having, a few months ago, I was waking up in the middle of the night or in the mornings and my hands were so swollen I could not close them. And then I was also having pain in my elbows and shoulders. And my hair started falling out. And so, I had already established last year a relationship with a rheumatologist. And so I went back to see him and he did some blood work and I had a positive test for lupus. I think the common treatment for lupus is steroids. And because of everything else that's going on, he really didn't want to put me on steroids that would suppress my immune system. Mm-hmm. So he has me on, we've been doing several trials of some anti-inflammatory medication. And unfortunately, every one that I take takes about 2 weeks to really get into your system. Mm-hmm. So it's a long, I think this is going to be a long process trying to figure out what really works for me. But lupus in itself is a hard thing to deal with.
What are some of the implications of it?
Well, if it's not treated, you could have, long-term damage. I know that just in my research on it, there's stuff about, and I listened to one of your podcasts about, I think he was a snowboarder that had lupus as well.
Yes.
I can't not remember his name.
Sean Busby, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And I know he has issues with being in the sun. And I haven't had that yet. I'm not sure if this just came on, because of the Whipple, or what. But it's very new. I've only had it for a few months. So.
Well, I feel for you because it's hard to pick through those things. These medical ideas, when they don't pop up and just present as something specific right away, it's very frustrating. I know that Arden has an appointment in about 6 days with a rheumatologist because at certain times of the month her like wrists and ankles, sometimes her knees they're painful and they have to be like rubbed constantly to try to and you can rub the pain away for a minute, but then it comes right back. And
yeah, it's so miserable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the muscles in her neck and her shoulders are always tight.
I do hot baths, and sometimes I do them several times a night. I mean, I was to the point where I was getting up in the night and having to take an additional hot bath just to get relief.
Wow. How long does that help for?
Well, I'll stay in there for quite a while, and then it'll usually take care of it for a couple of hours. Mm. So that's been my go-to. I understand it. I understand the wrists and the, hands and, all of that. It's really uncomfortable.
Yeah. It sucks that you can't do and also, by the way, the steroids would make your insulin needs go up.
Yes. So, that's the other reason that he did not want to do that.
Yeah. I don't know.
And I'm struggling. I mean, yes, I dropped my A1C, but I'm on a day-to-day basis. I look at, people's lines, on their graphs, and they're so stable, and I'm looking at mine and it's like mountains and valleys. And, sometimes I get it, more in control, but, I'm still, and pain and stress doesn't help. And, I'm still dealing with all of that. And I know that's causing some of the problems with the diabetes.
Yeah.
So I just have a lot going on at one time.
I got an email this morning from a person and she's like, "Hey, your blood sugar was higher overnight. Are you okay?" I said, "Okay, I am." I said, so last night I purposefully ate like some junky food later at night so people could see. And it would be one of those things that you wouldn't think much of, and it put my blood sugar up to like 110, but it stayed there almost all night. And, so you put this junky food in your system and then you go to sleep and digestion slows down. It stays with you longer,
right?
etc. Tomorrow, I think, probably tomorrow, I'm going to eat like almost a no carb. I'm going to eat like steak and stuff like that for a day so people can see what that looks like.
See what happens.
Yeah.
My husband said that his doctor was telling him that he was on the verge of diabetes, and he is a string bean. He has a little belly, but he is tall and skinny and can eat 5 bowls of ice cream every night and not gain a pound. Mm. And the doctor told him that. And so he wanted me, I did the finger prick on him, and, we watched and then checked it again after he had like a soda or something. And it, of course, was like perfectly normal. He didn't have any issues at all.
There was a couple of days where my blood sugar didn't move around too much. I was like, oh, people are going to be pissed at me, I think. So I'm going to have to eat some crappier
I know
food.
It's just not fair.
Yeah. But I'm getting a lot of notes. People are finding it valuable just to see how things kind of go up and down and go up and stay. And you just you realize that these patterns, if you didn't have a working pancreas, the patterns would still be there. They would just be happening at a higher number if you're not managing it well with insulin. Arden and I we had pizza the other night, and she was better than I was for like 2/3 of the stretch of the food. Like in the beginning third, my bolus worked way better than my pancreas did for me. And then had I not been working, I would have seen the rise it was trying to happen sooner, and I would have gotten to it sooner. But she went up to like 178 for a while, and then she came back down. And it was interesting. Exact same time, we were both like 90 again, like right at that spot. So...
See, I really want to figure out pizza because pizza's on my like last meal list.
Wait, like your last meal before like a firing squad kind of a thing, or
for before I die, I must have pizza.
All right, well, listen, just eat it on the last day and it won't matter. It'll be fine.
There you go. That's true.
No, I mean the key to pizza is that you need some up front, and then you need a lot of it. Of later. That insulin when the fat protein rise happens. So it's mostly fat with pizza, but she had a little bit of protein with it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so. I have done it a few. I actually have eaten a little bit of pizza here and there, a couple of bites and tried. I actually had a miserable time on my birthday because, there was the temptation to have food other than what I normally eat. And so I did have a little bit of different food. Mm-hmm. And then I was juggling, how do I bolus for this? And then I gave myself too much. And then I literally said to my husband, I said, I might have just overdosed. I might die tonight. Like this is scary. I think I'll just go back to eating the same food every single day.
Yeah. How did it end up? Did you not use too much or?
I ended up having to compensate with drinking some juice, but I figured it out and I got myself worked up about it because I really thought I had given myself way too much. And I probably did because I didn't eat as much as I thought I would. Mm-hmm. And, but I figured it out and it actually wasn't that bad, but it was scary at first.
I saw someone online. It happens periodically. They give themselves they're trying to give themselves their basal injection and they do it with, bolus instead. So now all of a sudden they put in like 30 or 40 or 50 units of insulin that's going to start working right away. And I'm always fascinated. They're online. They're like, what do I do? And I'm like, just take your carb ratio and figure out how much insulin you just gave, how many carbs you just covered and eat them. Like it's fascinating how it happening out of order makes it so confusing to everybody.
I know.
It's I think it's because you get stuck thinking about this stuff in such a specific and ordered way that you just can't break free of the idea. I mean, honestly, giving yourself 50 units of fast acting insulin. I know people who have little kids are like 50, but adults use a lot of insulin with their meals. Right. You just have to look and go, okay, what do I have in the house that's, 50 units? And I mean, my I don't know, say you're like 1 unit per 5 grams. It's not that hard. You go 5, 10, 15, 20. Oh, I need, I have to have 10 here. 10 to cover. So I'll find.
And there's a lot of carbs and a lot of things. So it's not that hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It just isn't. Like it isn't. And 10's the wrong word. Let me do this. Hold on. Let's say you put in 50 units. You're 1 for 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So 25. Yeah, you need it's not that hard. It's just do it. It's just do the math and do it. And they're like, what do I do? I called the doctor. I was like, eat something.
Right.
Yeah, like this is your big chance. Remember that candy you never eat? This is your time. Like get in there. Like do that thing. Now, if you don't have something, I've spoken to somebody before who didn't have anything in the house and has done it. I'll never forget that. I will never forget getting a message through Instagram from this younger girl who I don't know. And she's like, I'm by myself and I'm out of food. And I gave myself too much insulin. And I was like, why are you texting me? Is what I thought. but isn't it interesting? We had never met before. I had never spoken to her. I was the one that popped into her head.
Oh, goodness.
So I helped her. I was like, all right, let's look around the house, see what you have. We can make it up, and she got a bunch of food and ate it. That was nerve wracking for me, by the way, when that happened.
I'm sure it was.
Because what happens in the middle if she's like, she drops over and the last person she contacted was me, I don't need those problems. My God. Well, how are you feeling psychologically? Because it occurs to me that if I was you, I would just be and like running in circles and banging into walls and stuff like that. Are you handling all this?
Well, it's interesting you ask that. It was really difficult with the diagnosis initially. And it was really difficult waiting to find out if the boys, were going to be positive or negative. But with each surgery, it's been hard. I, thankfully, my boys, or one of the boys in particular, begged and begged and begged for a dog a few years ago, actually the summer before my diagnosis. And we gave in and got the dog. And he has been my saving grace. I walk that dog between 9 and 10 miles a day. And that is how I keep my mind clear.
Yeah.
And it's also great for digestion. I mean, they say, walking aids digestion. And after a Whipple procedure, they really want you to do a lot of walking. So that has helped me tremendously. If I don't walk, I feel depressed and down. So that's been really, really important to me. I have to say, though, that I talked to my doctor last night, and him saying that there was some abnormal tissue on the pituitary. It was kind of like, oh, now there's this to worry about. Now there's going to be that at the back of my head to think about all the time.
How many glands do you have left? Can we just get rid of all of them now?
I know. I'm just like, take it.
What does that do? What does the pituitary gland do?
The pituitary that's left.
Is that? It's gonna. Hold on a second. I don't know. I'm gonna find out what it does.
It's in charge of your growth hormones.
Contributing to growth, development, and functioning of other endocrine. Well, listen. It's in control of growth and development. You're already an adult.
I'm done.
Yeah, and
no more growing.
And it helps functioning of other endocrine glands, which you mostly don't have. So
exactly, they're gone.
It's only the size of a pea. It says.
That's right.
How could it cause you that much trouble? My gosh.
And after the distal, after I had the distal pancreatectomy, he said he got everything. And, we were really happy for that. And then I had my follow-up appointment, and he came back and he said, well, the pathology says that you have all of these little neuroendocrine tumors just speckled through your pancreas. And so then there was that worry until I had those yearly scans. And then once I got those scans back and they were clear, I had like 2 or 3 weeks of, oh, okay, I can move on with my life now. And then I got the lab work back that was, elevated for these neuroendocrine tumors. And that's when the decision was made to go forth with the Whipple. So I don't know. It seems like every time I take a step forward, I take a couple steps back.
I feel like I know what you mean. We've been working on trying to figure Arden out for so long now that just the diabetes alone seems like kind of an afterthought. It began with her thyroid diagnosis,
right?
And then everything was fine for like a year, and then a year later, all of a sudden, it looked like she was going to die. None of us realized. I talked about it on the thyroid episode, but she had grown so much, she wasn't getting enough thyroid again as a replacement. But she was like. We were taking her to doctors to see if she had like serious heart trouble because her blood pressure was so low. And, that driving somewhere with your kid in the car and you're just like, oh, we're just going to go find out. Like being an adult is terrible.
Right.
It really is. If you're going to have a baby, like if you like just live your whole life by yourself, you'll never go through all these horrors. But it just, I seriously do mean that. Like you're driving somewhere and you're like, am I going to get to this place and they're going to tell me my daughter's heart doesn't work? Like, is that what we're going to find out? And then they give you information and you're like, well, that's not even helpful. And this didn't answer any questions. So then you have to go back home again. It's not like the doctor goes home. It's not Dr. House. Like they don't go home at the end of the day and go, oh, that little girl Arden today. Let me just sit here and think pensively until I come up with an answer for these people. Like you left, the tests they ran didn't give you an answer. They're done with you now. Now you have to figure it out again. So we got her thyroid levels back up. And then not long after that, she has to stop playing softball because the muscles in her shoulder and her neck are so tight, she can't even do it anymore. And, now you're trying to figure that out. So we went down the thyroid road and figured, went through things piece by piece, and it takes forever. You're like, well, it can't be your blood sugar. But at one point, I even changed part of the reason we tried Fiasp because I was just like, well, let me see, like, could she be allergic to her insulin? And that didn't do anything. And, it feels like you're thinking about it all the time. Like either what's going to happen or what you have to do about the thing that is happening.
Right.
It's exhausting.
And the walking is the only thing I found to like keep that, down, to keep it under control.
Yeah, I don't usually make statements like this, but people who don't have health issues have no idea how lucky they are.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
It's just a lot. And I'm glad they don't know. I'm not wishing it on them so that I'm not like, you need to understand. But there's so much to it. And it's just there's the littlest things. Like my son is at home because of COVID. Mm-hmm. And he had a pretty stressful semester. Mm-hmm. And then he gets done. And he's like, oh, this is great. I'm finished. And then he has his plan for the winter. He's going to do a lot of extra eating and lifting. He's trying to put on a certain amount of weight for the spring. He comes upstairs one day and he's all freaked out. He's like, I started lifting weights and my skin got all red and I'm itchy. Uh-oh. And we're like, what? It's just, did anybody change laundry detergent or something like that? We had added something recently. So I was like, all right, let me rewash all your stuff and blah, blah, and did everything. And then it happened to him again. And now it's 2 weeks later and it's continuing to happen to him.
Oh no.
And anytime he exerts himself, or gets really hot, I guess the histamine, like the adrenaline makes histamine, right? And he's breaking out from his waist up. It doesn't last long, but he can't keep working out.
Right.
And so, the doctor that we spoke to said this happens to people as a community, a medical community. We really don't know why. It most often does just stop. And here's a way to try to manage through it. And, he was talking about it. But in that moment, I was like, my son's whole life is playing baseball.
Right.
Like, you tell me he can't lift weights or run around? Because I don't know what he would do then. And, the doctor said it's okay. Like, it's going to, we really expect it to go away. But I told Kelly privately yesterday, I was like, if that kid can't keep playing baseball, I don't think I can handle it. Like, I don't think I can handle anything else bad happening.
Right.
And our not even close to your thing. Seriously.
Wow.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own thing.
Yeah. Just don't walk that dog off a pier. Okay.
I know. He's a Siberian Husky and, you can't walk him enough. He just, he would keep walking.
He'd just drag you through the water out into the sound.
This child that wanted this dog, there was one in the neighborhood that would walk past our house every morning before school. And he hid in the bushes outside of our house every morning and waited to pet that dog and to ask if he could, pet the dog and play with the dog. And he campaigned for this dog for so many years.
Well, he got it. Now you're walking it around.
That's right. Now it's my dog, actually.
Yeah. Does he pay attention to the dog at all?
Oh, well, they do. They were extremely helpful when I came home from surgery. They did all of the walking and care, and they do care for him, but he really, I don't know if that's the breed, but they have a one person that they're really, really loyal to. I guess because he's a pack dog, and I am his one person.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is.
Our dogs listen to me and almost nobody else in the house. And I wish it wasn't me, because then I'm working and I get this note, hey, the dogs have to do this. They have to do that. I'm like, I'm not even there. Like, you do it. Right. They don't listen to me. I'm like, oh, I think she secretly loves that dog doesn't listen to her. Honestly, gets her out of everything. Yeah. Listen, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Try not to have children. If you do, okay, don't have too many. Definitely don't get a dog. It's just, it's so much work,
Well, and I've got hairballs everywhere from this dog
rolling through your house.
Yeah, I mean, it's just he's blowing his coat, and so it's like a couple times a year. It's pretty bad.
I have to say, your accent's delightful between the Texas and the North Carolina, a little bit of the Northeast. It's very nice.
Well, I can't tell. So
no, you'd be great doing voiceover for Southern lady or something like that. Right? Very nice. Well, I was just going to say, and your husband can't walk that dog, right?
Well, he won't.
So he's smart. He's like, look,
not my dog.
It's a mistake you made, not me.
Right. Exactly.
But I just had my pancreas out.
That's right.
Better get those kids to do it.
I know. I keep trying to tell them, I've just recovered from pancreatic cancer surgery. I've got type 1 diabetes and lupus. Can I get a little help here?
And they're like, that's not enough yet. No, I've spent the last couple of days being mocked walking around my house. Uh-oh. Because I move in a certain way with this muscle thing. And I'm like, geez, like it comes, I can't keep it in. Oh, so dramatic. I hear from across the room. I'm like, this really hurts, You just have your muscles are tight. I'm like, no, it's my whole, like if you cut me in quarters, like through the midsection of my torso, and then up and sideways, and just took the top right corner of me. It was just like a rock of muscles that wouldn't, the doctor's like, now bend your head to the right. And I was like, it moved like a half an inch. And I was like, that's it. And he goes, oh, okay. I was like, and I can't turn my head this way because it hurts. And every time I lift up my arm or, like I'm in the room holding my right arm with my left arm because I don't want it to fall down, And you're at the doctor's and they're worried about you. And you get home and I can hear them. Like, look how he's holding his arm. They're making fun of me and I can hear them. I'm like, this is going to go away. And my wife actually said to me last night, she goes, this was not a great time for this to happen.
Oh, gosh. That sounds like something I would say.
I'm like, well, but you think I planned it?
I know.
This is not a good time for this to happen. I'll tell you what. She gets sick once in a while, like everybody does.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to tell her when she's laying in bed and dying, like, can you please get me this? I'm going to go, this is not an ideal time for this to be happening.
Right.
See what happens to me if I say
put
that.
It back on her.
Yeah, great. That would make her not sick in 3 seconds. She'd stand right up and call a divorce attorney. I can't believe you said that to me. I'm sick. And I'll say, but you said it to me with my arms. That's different. You're being a baby. I'm not being. So seriously, this really hurts. It's not just like a little muscle pull. Like I'm, in a bad way. And it's going to pass. Like the muscles are going to stop spasming and it's going to be fine. But this is not an opportune time for this to happen.
That's right.
Yeah. But can you imagine if someone said to you, I don't want to walk the dog. In all honesty, this surgery you had, it's getting in the way of my life.
Right.
Yeah, great. Well, listen, it's poor kids. They're only 12. Maybe they don't know any better.
They're right.
Are you, have we not talked about anything that you were hoping to talk about? I should ask.
No, I think we did. In listening to you, I thought, of course, I had not listened to a lot of your other podcasts, and I did after I, sent you the email. I listened to the girl that's in Louisiana.
Yeah.
That she had I think it was a kidney disease that caused her to have an operation that was similar to the Whipple, which I thought was really interesting. But when I emailed you, I just wanted to say or bring awareness to the Whipple warriors, people that, we have type 1 diabetes because of surgery, and also to Men One, because it all, we can all end up in the same community because of these things. So, I've been really thankful to you and to Jenny. I actually reached out to Jenny to try to get some more education. And I had an appointment with Alicia in the integrated diabetes office, who wears the same pump that I wear. I wear a Tandem T-Slim. And I had a first meeting with her. And I haven't gone forward just because I have so many other issues it's not just diabetes. It's right now so many other things going on at the same time that makes it a little bit difficult. But I intend to, get some more education from her because I thought they were fantastic.
Yeah, she does a great job. Jenny always says to me, she's like, "Your people." I'm like, "Why are they my people?" She's like, "They come from the podcast." It's like, "They're not my people." I'm just like, "They're people." She doesn't mean anything by it. She's the way she talks. It's fantastic. We're speaking privately. And she's like, "I got a bunch of messages from your people the other day." I was like, "You mean people listen to the podcast?" She's like, "Yeah." Like, I'm glad. People. I was like, yeah. And you kind of bumped into what some people bump into is I think people want to work with Jenny because they hear her on the show, but Jenny's pretty booked because of the show at the same time. So it's hard to get in with her sometimes.
Well, and just talking to Alicia in the one time that I talked to her, she gave me a trick, for my pump that completely helped me and fixed a problem that I was having, every day. So, she, and she was, I originally wanted to talk to Jenny, but Jenny said Alicia is the guru for Tandem T-Slim. And so
she knew what to do, and she did. So it worked out.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm glad you found them. And Jenny really is delightful. I'm actually recording with her tomorrow afternoon.
Good.
If I can lift up my arm, which I'm doing pretty good. I was so worried about doing this with you. I was like, what if I'm sitting there just in pain the entire time, but I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
I went to when I was
pill.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm doing okay.
That magic pill.
Yeah, I took the magic pill that makes your muscles like putty.
Right.
But I went into the urgent care and, guys, like, I'm just going to do a couple of x-rays to be sure nothing structurally is wrong. I don't think there is. And I was like, yeah, there's not, but whatever, So I'm sitting in there and she's like, stay still. She's like, you're fidgeting. And I said, I can't just let my arm hang like this. I said, it hurts so bad,
Yeah.
So she takes a picture and she goes, are you wearing a diabetes thing? And I was like, oh, I am. I'm like, on my arm. She goes, do you have diabetes? And I was like, no, I'm doing it so people on the internet can watch my, and she's like, what? So I started explaining to her. She goes, oh, that's so nice. My friend has diabetes. And I was like, oh, everybody's friend has diabetes. So I go back into the room to wait for the doctor after the films. And for whatever reason, this little chair in there, I felt so good sitting in the chair. And he comes and he goes, what we're going to do? I was like, look, man, whatever you're going to do, forget it. Just let me take this chair home with me. I said, this chair is perfect for me for some reason. He goes, yeah, he was so funny. He goes, I don't care. Take it. And I was like, oh, wow. I like this. But I left the chair behind and just left with the Flexeril. So it's all good. I just don't want to take a bunch of drugs, if I don't have to. You're taking, you're taking a pain medication for the lupus, right?
Well, yeah, for lupus and for abdominal, I'm still having a lot of abdominal cramping, pain. I'm on a pretty large list of medication still.
Do they continue?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Will those medications continue forever, or are they just because of the surgery?
That's a good question. I mean, I have hypothyroidism as well, so I take thyroid pill and.
Of course you do.
But that was caused because of the parathyroid problem.
Right.
So, but I take, if you have your pancreas out, you got to take a pancreatic enzyme every time you eat. So that in itself, if you have I'm doing the little small meals all day long. Instead of just like 3 meals a day, I do like 5 small meals. So that's a lot of pills in itself. And then, anxiety medication and, things like that.
I would definitely need that if I was you. What happens if I don't take the enzyme when I eat?
severe stomach cramping, probably running to the bathroom. Not pleasant experience at all.
Just for not taking the pancreatic enzyme.
Right.
Wow. And that's every time you take something in. So is it as much as like if you walked past a candy dish and grabbed 4 M&Ms, you would need that enzyme?
Probably not that, but and maybe I'll get better at this, but with diabetes, the snacking thing, I haven't, unless I've, bolused for it. I'm trying not to put anything in my mouth.
Yeah, you're thinking about that. I have to tell you, I've lost a few pounds wearing this CGM.
I bet you have.
Because my wife's like, she's like, you're not eating as much. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, everybody's watching. This is
That's funny.
Yeah. I was this is a great way to like, I know it's 2020 and we're not allowed to shame people anymore, but apparently that would work because I'm just like, oh, I'm not eating that.
Yeah. Who would have thought, right?
It's like, then those people will know. Then what? And she's like, who cares? I'm like, I don't know. I care a little bit. But it's cut my snacking down. Like, and I guess I don't even know what I was eating, but I think I've lost like 5 pounds this week. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. I was still very fat when I got on the scale at the urgent care the other day. I'm like, she's like, get up on the scale. I'm like, why? My shoulder hurts. Like, come on. Like, what is this about? Right away. I just got in here. I still have my jacket on. Like, get on. And she's like, I'm like, can I take can I strip? She goes, no. I'm like, oh. I'm probably wearing like 4 pounds of clothing. So I just jumped up and left again. I was like, all right, fine. If this is how it's going to be, they're making fun of me at home. Might as well, let's do it here too,
That's right. Everywhere.
No, but seriously, there's something, I mean, I'm partially joking. I'm not eating things because of people watching completely. Although there have been a couple times I was like, no, I'm not going to do it because of that. But it's just me. I'm aware of it. Like being able to see your blood sugar it's meaningful, like you look at it and you think, oh, I don't want my blood sugar to go up, like for this, like I don't love this enough to do that. So I guess that's probably what happens to you as well.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm learning some things here as well.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good.
We all are, right? Every day.
Holy shit. Caroline, you're, I just got to say, this story is, it's a mess.
It is. Good entertainment, right?
Well, I don't know. I was just like, yeah. I mean, first of all, everyone listening is like, oh, I'm lucky. This Caroline lady, she got real problems. But I mean, I hope that things go as well as possible for you. I realize it's got to be like a long road ahead to hammer things out. And it's funny how I don't know which thing to. All right, let me ask it this way: of the issues that you have now, which one would you give away if I let you give one of them away? I have my answer, but I'm waiting for yours.
The diabetes.
Really? It's interesting. Yep. I would have thought you were going to say the lupus.
Well, I've been dealing with pain like that for so long. I might be used to it, but the diabetes seems heavy. It seems hard. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know I'm going to get there. I know listening to you, reading, the education part of it, I know I will get there. But it seems hard. It seems heavy. It seems like it's the thing that is always on my mind all day right now.
I hear that. It's very consistent. That's for sure. You don't get to, like, I came home yesterday and I was pretty beat up, and my wife, I think, just kind of left the kids to their own, like, to feed themselves in the afternoon. Uh-huh. So that turned into like Moe's, quesadillas or some wraps or something like that into Chinese food, Oh gosh. And Arden's blood sugar I wasn't involved in it for 4 or 5 hours because I was asleep on the sofa. Like I got into a position and I was like, I'm comfortable. I'm going to sleep, because the night before, 6 a.m. was the first time I went to sleep the night before. I could not find a position to sleep in. I finally found it at 6 o'clock. I slept for like 3 or 4 hours, went right out to the urgent care. So I was not involved in Arden's like diabetes care yesterday. Uh-huh. And I thought she had eaten one thing, and it turns out she didn't. And we saw this kind of stuck her higher blood sugar in like 150s, and it was just couldn't get it to come down. And it was at the end of the pump site. So part of me wanted like to tell Kelly, like, I think you should change the pump. And then, but part of me thought, no, it's all this food. And it turns out I get in bed at like 1:00 and Kelly's like, Arden's blood sugar still won't come down. I said, did you give her more insulin? She goes, no. And I was like, why? And she goes, I don't know. I thought you gave her enough, because I kind of jumped back into it in the evening. And I'm like, okay. We went all through it again. And then it turns out this one thing that I thought she ate that would have accounted for this if the bolus was done poorly, she didn't actually eat. So it was 1:00 and I said, here are your choices. You can bolus now, and a half an hour from now when nothing happens, change your pump, or just change your pump now and bolus so we can go to bed. So it was like 1:15. We got up. I'm like, I'm like moaning because of my arm. I've got my arm wrapped up in my shirt, trying not to let it fall down. Kelly's like, you have to come help me. And I was like, okay. So we went and did it, woke Arden up and put this pump on her. But it was the right thing to do. It was happening at 1:30 in the morning. And that's your point, is that it's just always there,
Yeah. And I had that 1:30 in the morning, several times. And the other thing is it seems like it's a moving target constantly. But at first I thought, oh my gosh, I'm the only one with this moving target and I'm never going to figure this out. And listening to your podcast and talking to other people, realizing I'm not the only one like this. It is a moving target. That's just what diabetes is. And, but listening to you and talking to other people, I realized that, and that has given me a lot of relief.
I'm glad. I'm happy for you. Any kind of relief, I'd be happy for you. And I know right now I'm thinking the same thing. Like, I would take a little relief because I'm like rubbing my chest while I'm talking to you, and it hurts so bad.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay, please. You don't have to apologize to anybody about medical stuff. In every situation, you win. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't think like that. You're covered. You're grandfathered in on this one for real. I would like to restart this episode and just ask you about hooking an older guy, but I can't. I don't have time. Were you in your 30s when you got married, or younger?
I got married at 28, and I got married in August, and I was pregnant in November with twins.
Yeah, he was probably pretty excited.
Oh yeah, he was like, "Let's do this.
Let's get going." You were 28.
Yeah,
that makes him like 52 when you got married.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
See, my math is okay when it's important. Then I can whip it together pretty quickly.
Right.
Oh no, yeah. How did your parents enjoy that? Was that because how old is your dad compared to your husband?
He's younger. He's a couple years younger.
Did they pull you aside?
No.
No.
No, I've pretty much been headstrong my whole life.
Oh, so whatever. I think whatever works. But I was imagining just your dad just one time being like, "Hey."
It's kind of funny. It's funny when they're together, but I'm an old soul, and so it does work. It really works.
Listen, boys are terrible. I talk about it here all the time. I'm 49. I'm almost an adult now. So I think, seriously, maybe another decade, maybe right before I'm 60, I think I'll pull it right together.
There you go.
But so I hear what you're saying. Kelly's definitely an old soul too. And I would have trouble. I did have trouble back then talking to girls my own age. I was just like, oh God, there's nothing. What are we? I don't know. Are we going to talk ever about anything important? And I really don't care. Like, just put something on. Let's go. And Kelly's like that. It is very comforting. She's only a couple years younger than me. I didn't,
Yeah.
Yeah. I just bumped into the cradle. I didn't completely rob it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you didn't rob it.
Yeah. That's all. Yeah, she's only a couple of years younger. All right. Carlene, you were very nice. You're delightful. I enjoyed your laugh. You kept me calm for some reason. You have such a consistent speaking pace. It slowed me down. I appreciate that.
Good. I hope you feel better.
I will. A couple more of these flex rolls, a couple more days. I'm going to be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to the rest of the podcast, so keep them going.
Yeah. Don't worry. I won't stop doing this. Look, I'm recording. I'll tell you, this is the first day I almost took a sick day. Last night I thought maybe I should email that person and just push this off, but I always just think I already make you guys schedule them so far in advance. Like, it seems really terrible to ask to push it off, you know? So,
yeah. I would have understood though.
I don't, no, you wouldn't have. You would have been like, wait, your shoulder and your back hurts? Oh, boo-hoo. Get on the thing. Turn the microphone on. I got lupus. I got Whipple. There's a
memoir.
Yeah, there's something in my arm. Like, you
type 1 diabetes.
Yeah. You don't want to do this why again? Because you're stiff. You would have been making fun of me like my family was if I would have done that.
Right.
Yeah. Trust me. I know what happens. All right. Well, thank you very much for doing this.
Yes. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Hey, huge thanks to Caroline for coming on the show and talking so openly about what's going on in her life. Thanks also to Omnipod, makers of the Omnipod Promise. Head over to omnipod.com/juicebox to see if you're eligible for a 30-day free trial of the Omnipod Dash. Thanks also to the Dexcom G6 continuous glucose monitor, dexcom.com/juicebox. Get started today or just go find out more. When you use my links, it helps the show. Make the clicky. They're at juiceboxpodcast.com or in the show notes of your podcast player. Clicky, clicky, clicky. Clicky is goody for Scotty. Thank you.